September 2010 Radnor Township Shade Tree Commission meeting. I think the real priority of being concerned about trees tonight is to pray for rain. We had a couple drops out there. But if we don't get rain soon, the trees are just shedding their leaves like crazy right now. So we'll see how this all ends up. Anyway, the first item on the agenda is 805 Parks Run Lane. Is there representation here tonight for that property?
Yes.
Okay, could you please step to the podium and identify yourself and describe what your plan is suggesting?
Okay, my name is Fran Deaton. I work for an engineering firm, E.B. Walsh and Associates, located in Exton.
Okay.
So tonight we have before you is a residential property located on Parks Run Lane.
Okay. If you could take the microphone and kind of bend it over towards the plan as you described, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay. And what the plan is proposing is a new tennis court on the property. The other components of the plan, the house, the proposed pool were previously submitted to the township and
Right.
approved by the township.
Right.
So this is the second phase of the development on the piece, just proposing a tennis court in that one corner of the property.
Right. Okay.
So we have listed on the plan in a chart on the tennis court permit plan that you have, the trees that are going to be removed and the replacement trees required. There's a total of 10 trees that are going to be removed, 6 of which are 6-inch to 23-inch caliber, and the 4 trees are 35-inch caliber or greater. The 35-inch caliber or greater are 4 tulip trees. Then the balance of the trees, the 6 to 23 inches, are miscellaneous trees, tulip trees, beech trees on the site. We're proposing to install the replacement trees as required. There's actually 18 replacement trees required, although the plan says 19. So there's six replacement trees required for the 6 to 23-inch caliber removed, and 12 required for the 4 35-inch caliber trees to be removed. So a total of replacement trees of 18. And we're proposing 26 replacement trees versus the 18 required.
19.
And on the plan, there's a plant schedule that identifies the 26 trees that are going to be proposed. And basically what the attempt was to screen the tennis court from the property to the west and provide additional screening around the tennis court toward the pool or to the east.
Okay, I think is this the third time this has come before Shade Tree, Sue?
I know it's been in before because they did a lot of additions and stuff
Yep.
to the house and everything, so it's not the first time that they've done tree work.
Right, the plan identifies by legend previously approved or previously proposed, which shows what was done in the other submissions for the Shade Tree Commission.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're going to recommend that we table this for now. I think we need to go back and look at the history of this. In my memory, it's saying this is the third time you've been, or whoever has been back in, and each time there was a recommendation to take down more trees. I could be wrong, but I think we need to table this and look at the history of the entries here.
Okay.
If you want, I can run back to the computer only because this came in the day after the last shade tree, so it's been in here since August 25th, maybe a month for the shade tree. If I can pull information from my computer, will that help?
Yeah, it could help. I just don't want to keep everybody waiting. Okay.
So the previous submissions were,
Yeah, I
in order to
remember,
build the house
my,
and the
my
pool.
concern, as I recall in the last submission, and, you know, Jim has backed me up on this. We clearly remember that we fought very hard for that corner, to keep trees in that corner. So the previous submission was, okay, yeah, we will do that. And there's something in my memory that's saying there was a time before that, but I could be wrong, because it all kind of starts to run together, but.
there was a previous submission by the applicant.
Yep.
The trees in that corner were identified to be pruned,
Right,
which are now going to be removed.
right,
Okay. I mean, this is my first attendance at any meeting,
Yep.
so I'm trying to catch up on the project
Yep.
by reading the drawings.
I understand.
I mean, I have that drawing if you want to look at it that was previously submitted.
Pardon?
I had the drawing that was previously submitted if you want to look at it.
Yeah, okay.
That's the drawing for the trees to be removed in order to build the house and the pool. You can see this corner we're talking about, where the tennis court is, was identified to be pruned, and all these trees have been removed, and I believe replacement trees were provided for those trees.
Right, okay. Now, let's see what Sue's history, I know it's been here twice, and I know we discussed very clearly that that corner needed to stay. And to come back, you know, several months later, well, actually, it's almost a year later. It's more than a year later, and say, okay, we've changed our mind, and now we're going to take those trees down.
If you look at that plan real close, there's an existing tennis court shown on that plan.
Right,
So that existing tennis court is going to be removed and shifted or pivoted,
right,
so it's parallel on that one property line, and that'll cause those trees to be removed.
okay.
Can you do that outside the building envelope?
That's another issue. There are, when it comes to zoning, there's certain things that are allowed outside the envelope and certain things that are not.
First clearing permit, then we have 79 and plant 111. There's the thing from the landscape, and there's your.
Right,
one before.
okay. Yeah, again, it was a conditional approval. August of last year. Excuse me, several in the rear and corner by the tennis courts could in fact be saved. I'm still going to recommend that we table this.
Okay.
Okay, one of the members of our commission is not with us tonight, and I need to get his input on this as well.
Could you just bring me up to speed? What's the issue, and what's the concern about?
I think the issue is that we go through the process and we create a conditional approval, and it is then, in essence, approved if the conditions are met. Then if developers come back to us a year later and say, oh, by the way, we changed our mind, then the conditions have changed and the conditions have not been met.
So the condition to save the trees in that one corner, is that a condition of the Shade Tree Commission?
That was the recommendation of the Shade Tree Commission of the August meeting of 2009,
Okay.
and that's the one I remember. Again, to come back a year later and say, oh, we've changed our mind, well, then that changes why we approved the condition to begin with.
Agree.
So we need to simply table it, and we'll discuss it,
Okay,
and we'll get back to you.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Fair enough.
You okay with that? Would you like this plan back, sir? Okay, thanks, Fran. Okay, Eastern University. Karen, would you identify yourself?
Karen McManuels from Associated Engineering Consultants. I'm representing Eastern University tonight. The project that we're here for, the university is proposing to build a new student center.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, let me just orient you first. The location of which right now is pretty much a dead center of the campus. The library, existing library, we're across from that. Currently, it is, the majority of the area is a softball field. And adjacent to the east of the softball field starts a wooded area. So the area, what we're looking at and blowing it up, the softball field, and then the area that's wooden where we're coming in with part of the building and an access road is where we're proposing to remove trees in that existing wooding area. The total number of trees being removed, and I'll just say from the 6-inch to 23 is 49, and from 24 to 35 inch is 6-inch or 6, so a total of 55. There's a couple of smaller diameter trees that we have a count of 5, but there are a couple more smaller trees that are in there. But the trees that we need to replace is 55, and the 6 we need to do 2, so a total tree replacement is 61. And right now, we show, as far as new trees, we're showing new trees. A lot of new trees around the building and around the new pathways about the building. However, we can't fit all comfortably the 61 trees, so we are proposing to plant some of the trees elsewhere on the campus. And one of the places we were looking at was along the property line behind Walton Hall, which is, if Walton Hall, the new building sits over that way. So we wanted to fill in this area here close to the adjacent property line there. So that's one of the things we're kind of looking for guidance and if that's acceptable in trading areas and spaces for the trees. We do not have a planning schedule right now because we are in preliminary stages, but it's going to be a mixture of deciduous and evergreen trees. And depending, if we can plant along the property line, it'll probably be more evergreen trees versus the deciduous, and it'll be a mixture of deciduous trees that we plan to plant back.
Okay, can you point out to me again where you're suggesting you're going to plant?
On the overall. Walton Hall. This is our new.
Right.
Walton Hall is. This is the area here, and it's the area in here that is kind of sparse right now. That we were looking to add a couple of trees along here. For visual blockage against for the adjacent neighbors.
What's there now? Anything?
There are some trees there now. There are kind of low trees, and there was a couple trees planted that have died and have been replaced. So
Would you take those out and put these new ones in, or with these new trees?
I'm sorry?
Would you be adding these, or would you take the other ones
We
out?
would be adding these. There's one tree that's there that's kind of dying that had been planted a couple of years ago, and it's kind of dying. That one will come out, but we would be adding. We wouldn't be taking any trees out there. We would be adding to fill it in.
What's the overall height of this proposed building? Is it 38 feet?
It is, from the back, it will be close to 38 feet. It's a 3-story building. From this side right here, it's going to be, you'll see 2 stories. From the back side, you'll see 3, because you're going to, the grade falls off there a bit, so you're going to be able to enter in the lower level in the back and the middle level in the front.
Okay.
So it'll sit down, and it'll appear to be, from this level, 2-story building.
Right. Do you have a tree protection?
Our ENS plan, I know we have it started. We do show on C13 a tree protection fence
Okay.
all around the area and limits of disturbance.
Okay. It seems as though you're kind of bumping right up against the wetland, even though that's not a shade tree issue necessarily. Has there been any thought to planting on that side to assist in the wetland process, or?
No, but we can think about it. I guess, what were your thoughts, or what did you have in mind?
I guess my main thought is that, that you're significant distance from your riparian buffer, so I guess you're okay that way.
Right. I'm assuming you're talking about like the driveway along the driveway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's we're still kind of, that may need to be tweaked a little bit more, because one of the reasons we're coming down there is we're trying to, for the, like the FedEx trucks and the straight bodies truck, to be able to, we're swing down and swing around and be
This
able
is
to have them
service
turn
drive,
around.
sure,
So
yeah.
that's why we're getting a little close to the wetlands in that area. And actually, I mean, this right here ends up being a retaining wall here to keep the elevation for the road in the wetlands. There's about, right, this spot right here is the grade is 306, and the proposed is around 310.5. So it's about a 4-foot retaining wall along that edge.
Okay.
It seems like it's a fairly wooded area right now.
Half of it is the softball field.
Are there any trees of consequence in the area?
No, most of them, like ash, there's no real significant trees. I mean, there's a couple trees that are more than 24 inches, but they're not any significant species or anything.
There's no real standout trees worth
No.
of tree preservation in this
No.
situation.
Mm-mm.
Okay, excuse me, and you've not come up with a true planting list yet as to what you're going to put back in, or?
We were looking at maples and a couple oaks, and as far as deciduous, and then for evergreens, we were looking at some pines and maybe a couple of firs to go back in. And like I said, if we can plant somewhere around the property line, they're going to be the evergreen trees that we'd like to plant there, mostly around the building. It'll be a mix. We'll
Right.
mix them up. So a final planting plan hasn't been done. Depending on if we have to put all 61 trees here, versus if we can move some of them into another area.
Okay. This is just,
This
is
is
it the preliminary stage?
submission.
Yeah. So before this would actually happen, you probably have to come back to us again.
For
is that-
with our final submission,
Right.
yes.
Okay, as you well know, Karen, we're a very large proponent of, the large canopy trees. And I understand the evergreens being, for the privacy of the neighbors. But, we would suggest you put as many of the larger canopies. And when you're talking about oaks, the red and black oak family right now is having difficulties. So we're encouraging people to stay away from
Okay.
that side of the oak family.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any further comment?
I would just, there is an opportunity to put back some significant canopy trees into this spot again,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
will be there 100 years from now instead of some flowering trees or some ornamentals. And you have a good opportunity to do that because there is some room here and there's a need for that
Yep.
in this situation. So
And that's kind of what I was alluding to, even in that wetland side, is,
We can
your
definitely.
white oaks, I mean,
Yeah.
they thrive in that kind of
Sure.
environment.
Okay.
If you can, pull them up close to the edge of it or whatever. So,
Okay. We can look at, see if we can pull that driveway along to see if we can get a row of trees along there. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it would add, an attractive feature as well as an environmental feature.
okay.
And you're just trying to jam a whole bunch of trees into a little triangle. I would encourage you to think bigger picture.
So with that then, if we're looking at doing more large canopy trees here, that we can pull some of the trees, because you can see that what we were proposing is a pretty dense, tree replacement. If
Right.
we're looking at the large canopy trees, I would be looking at moving some of those trees out and locating other places on the campus.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's
I'm looking at the
acceptable.
amount of trees you're putting in that space.
Right.
It's kind of suggesting a grove, and I don't know that you can get that many large trees in that spot.
Right.
And you might be, if that's all small canopy, we're saying, well, we're not interested in that. If you can, spread that out. And then also, at least the 2.5 to 3 inch caliber. I know on a college campus, anything less than that is in jeopardy, so.
Yeah, I think we always spec 2.5 to 3 inch calibers.
Okay.
Yeah. And any evergreen is always 6 to 8 feet high.
Okay. Yeah, with the evergreens, when you're talking about pines, again, Bill Thomas is our horticultural expert usually in these meetings. He's not here tonight, but Jim is our backups.
You want to refrain from the white pines if you can stay away from them because of the storm damage problems and their growth habit. The fir trees really don't do very well. Their longevity is not very good. A couple different varieties of spruce: Oriental spruce, Norway spruce. Again, there's some really well-adapted cryptomeria out there that really work well. Western arborvitae is another great plant that can be used either as a hedge or just singularly, which is a very, very good plant, especially after last winter.
Okay.
So really try to stay away from the white pines
Okay.
altogether.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We can take that back to your drawing board, and we look
Okay.
forward to seeing you next time around.
Okay. Great.
Okey-doke. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm. Okay. Is there any hazardous tree reports? Not that you know of, Sue? Okay. New business-wise, there is still ongoing discussion regarding the revision of the shade tree ordinance, in essence, to help improve enforcement and also change some of the other language referring to the types of trees that should be planted. And we will be working through that with the township, between the Shade Tree Commission and the commissioners within the next several months. And that's basically all I have to report. And so concludes the September meeting of Shade Tree Commission.